That works
Always,
a little differently than
always,
it usually does.
always.
Uh-huh.
Thank you for tuning in now, forever, later down the road. Oh my
Mhm.
goodness. So it's been a minute, couple of weeks. The unfortunate thing is, it seems like every time I introduce myself or come live or whatever the case may be, everything is smooth sailing, everything is good. I know the topics, everything is literally rocking and rolling.
Mhm.
And right before the actual show starts, something goes misfire.
Always.
The light, the link, something is always acting fugazi.
Mhm.
Only if you could see what was happening behind the scenes on my side. I think your side is good.
My side is good, but I know you said that you're flying blind here, so let's
Yeah, yeah, I
you know.
am flying blind. So hey, if you can see the
Okay,
comments
I'm a good
coming in,
assistant co-pilot, so I'll guide you through the clouds tonight.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Mhm.
And of course, like we always say, make sure that you like and you subscribe. Oh, okay, that worked.
Yeah.
Make
There you
sure that
go.
you like and subscribe.
Mhm.
Um, so that we could talk about more crazy bullshit ass topics. It's crazy, you know what? Because I want to actually go into this episode kind of like we used to, just as a simple conversation, because so much has
Okay.
been going on since we have actually haven't been around. And we
So
got the
much in the
Puffy
news,
trial.
so much in our lives.
Yes. Uh, COVID has came through. I don't know if you know about that one. Once again, the Puffy trial. Back to Donald Trump.
It is here,
Uh,
is it?
yes, Elon Musk. The same old bullshit, just a different day. So I was like, okay, let's go at
It's a
it
little
since it
different.
has been a minute.
It's slightly different.
What do you think is different? What do you think is different?
Well, he seems to have fallen out of favor a little bit, little Elon, you know. I don't know if you've been following, but all the chat is about his drug use, and it seems like they turned on him in the little circle and putting him
I
on
think that's
blast,
just
kind of.
fluff. I think that's just fluff. I think that at the end of the day, they don't want to be looked and perceived as the bad guy. So anybody that leaves the administration, they always have a little bit of something
Mhm.
to say, because in the same breath they honor him and they give him much praise and everything. And we're going to jump in on Donald Trump and all the stuff that he's got going on, but I want to talk about Puffy. I want to talk about Puffy. Have you been following the Puffy trial?
I mean, a little bit. Like, if we got to, I guess.
Well, no, and I think it's important that we talk about Puffy. And
Okay,
the reason why I think it's important we
let's.
talk about what's no, no, no. I think it's important. The reason why we should talk about it is not necessarily because of him, because it's bringing a spotlight on abuse, women and abuse, and how we handle it, how we deal with it. Um, when do we talk about it? I was listening to Bill Moore, and he
Mm,
was basically mad at
yeah.
Cassie. And he was mad because he says this is the age of the Me Too movement. This is the age of we're listening to women, we're backing, we're locking arms. And for you to kind of like not say anything, want to pussyfoot around it. You stayed because you had to, you stayed because you was afraid. And he was kind of like victim shaming in a way. And I really wanted to hear your whole point on that in reference to, first of all, did you even hear what he was talking about?
I absolutely did hear that.
How did you feel about that?
Hmm. Okay. Unpopular opinion. I'm
Mhm.
kind of with him on it.
Okay. So you're
Okay.
over it.
Not so much that I'm over it, right? And I don't know that he was necessarily victim shaming, so much as a recurring theme that I've noticed in my life this whole week, right? Is that sometimes the honest thing is the least polite thing. You know
Okay.
what I mean? And we've gotten so caught up in always being polite and being politically correct and so on and so forth. And he said something valid. And then he also threw in what's her name? FKJ Twigs, you know who I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
In a relationship with Shia LaBeouf, and she mentioned she was like at any point she could have bought herself a first class ticket back to her 4-story townhouse.
Mhm.
Own words, right?
Okay.
We asked Cassie, but somebody testified, asked Cassie, like, why don't you leave him? And her response was because Jay-Z is taken. So to some extent, these particular women, to some extent, right, have signed up for the bullshit to some extent, right? And
Okay.
it's not victim shaming, but we talk about it in different ways with a lot of the celebrities. So with a lot of the celebrities, and I know you and Ike have spoken offline that there's always this story that they sold their soul or that they made sacrifices or whatever, right? And we always see that as this figurative thing, like they're selling their soul to the devil, or they're selling. Some people are just selling their souls to the person in front of them, and
Okay.
you know what I mean. And so
Okay.
it's
So
nonsense. Go ahead.
so if I hear what you're saying, if I hear what Bill Maher is saying, if a woman is in a DV situation, domestic violence, if
Hmm.
a woman's in a DV situation, should we not should we have turned a side eye? So we know they're getting their ass whooped. We know that maybe the perp is giving them drugs to basically get them dependent, get them needy. This person may have some type of power over them. So when we hear the stories of, oh, I was afraid and this, are we turning a blind eye? Are we saying that because there's so many resources to get away, I don't want to hear it anymore. I don't want to hear you
No, and I
telling
think
me.
that we would make a mistake to compare the women that we're speaking of in the entertainment industry with,
Abuse is abuse, though.
yes and no, right? So let's
Oh,
go.
do
You know
tell.
what?
This is getting
Let's go all the
interesting.
way there.
This is getting interesting.
Let's go all the way there, right?
I'm
So, for
listening.
example, different people have different kinks, right? And so, surely you've heard of BDSM, where they get tied up and beat and
Yeah.
put on display and all kinds of weird stuff, right? People are
Okay.
really, really into that, right?
Okay.
You and I looking at that would look at it and go, "Oh my God, that's abuse, right? Like this woman is bruised, she's being whipped with like the shit they whipped horses with, and
Mhm.
like, to me that looks like abuse, right? To the next person, that's their kink. Imagine that that's the world that you're in, that you signed up for, that whatever, and then when things go south, you're just like, "Oh my God, I got so many beatings." Not the same shit. Don't do that, right? Because I think it invalidates people that have actually been through real abuse, right? And so to some extent, she she loved the freak offs. Maybe she didn't enjoy getting her
But
ass
this
beat
is
in front of
where,
an
but this is
elevator.
where, okay, and oh wow, this is gonna get good because at the end of the day, no. At the end of the day, there are many people that have many kinks that are into all different types of things, and they have
Mhm,
code words. And if they don't use the code word in enough time, I may strangle your ass in the process. With
mhm,
that being said, are
mhm,
we saying that if you have a situation, a dynamic where one person is older, because she ended up being with, she met him when she was 17, slept
mhm.
with him, I think, when she was 21. So
Okay.
here you have somebody who has power, fame. I mean, whatever this man says is shaking, he's moving, he's doing big things. And
Mhm,
just to please her man, she thinks this is the proper way. She thinks that this is the proper way for love and attention, and maybe he'll be mine. Because at that age, between
mhm.
the age of 17 to 21, even 24, you'll have a lot of women, they don't know necessarily how to keep a man. They don't know necessarily what it's like in a
I'm
relationship. So
gonna
do
go
you
with
think,
it.
but do you think that the older guy has an influence?
Yes, I do think an older man has an influence, right? But I also think that to discount the fact that young women know right from wrong is also wrong. I think that's also diminishing to women. So when she started fucking with Puffy, he was very married, influence or not, right? And money or not, power or not, she knew good and well that she was walking into a situation with a married man, right?
Okay, but teenagers, young kids, they don't think about much. Well, there are some that don't think about it. Continue.
I mean, so we're just excusing away morals. We're just saying that you don't need to have any morals,
But
or
but you can't have
you're
it both. But you
18,
can't have it
so
both ways. What morals are really happening in the rap industry? What I mean, the rap industry itself, especially back in the 90s when all these things are popping off. What morals, what standards are being held? Everybody is this, everybody's that. I mean, really, what morals are we really having? But go ahead.
right, so to that same effect, right? So in the 90s, specifically, so on and so forth, I'm sure that there were people family members, somebody, unless they were selling her, right? I mean, that was just like, hey, don't want you in that life. And I mean, we've all been there, right? There was the friends that you wanted to run with, there were the industries you might have wanted to get into, and so on and so forth. And you hear people saying you don't want to run with those people. That's bad news bears. You don't want to go to that party. You don't want to you don't want to be in that crowd, and so on and so forth. But you're like, no, it's exactly what I want. I want to be around those people. And then
Okay.
shit happens,
It's
and now it's just like, oh my God.
fast life.
Right. So look, I don't think she should have gotten her ass beat by no stretch of the imagination. I am not excusing his behavior. His behavior is inexcusable completely.
Okay.
Completely. What I'm saying is some of her behavior was inexcusable too. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I'm gonna have to challenge you on that.
Okay.
Because birds of a feather flock together. If
Mhm.
if you are a goody two shoe girl, you come from a good background, maybe even a church girl, you just do not do those things.
Mhm.
If you associate with the right type of person who has heavy influence, if you track that person, you will see that they start to change and become a monster just like you are. So I think that, and we talked about it kind of in the last time we was talking about with the one the white lady with the what's the guy who has the talk show? Yes.
Mhm.
I mean, how you have this older guy who's looking for this younger girl so he could influence her, so he could say whatever, do
Oh,
whatever.
yeah, I know. Don't get me wrong. They groomed them, and there's a whole lot of foul shit at play. What I'm saying is that Puffy had a long list of foul shit that he'll probably spend a good amount of time in jail for. He's already been in jail for, sometime. He'll be there for a lot longer, and he should be. Again, I'm not excusing him. I'm not coming to his defense at all, at all.
But if I hear you correctly, you're saying that she does still have a play in it.
Yeah, I mean, she's no saint in this either. I mean, and even to some extent, and because you mentioned the whole Bill Maher thing, I gotta stress to you that we're not talking about your everyday woman, not your neighbor, not your bestie from high school, not those people, right? We're talking about women that in fact have means, have connections, have influence, that are making choices. She actively made a choice because she wanted access to that money, the power, the celebrity status, the parties. She wanted that, right?
Okay. We're gonna go to we're gonna go. Wait. I finally see a comment coming, so that's
okay.
Good.
There you go.
That's so Cass says evening. Hey.
So, and hi Denise. She says, so I believe there are some who sign up for cheating, or maybe even a form of verbal abuse or whatever, but being drugged and
or beat
and things by someone in power, even of older men, is a whole other situation.
You know what? I have to say this. If you are with a creepazoid and this guy is very influential, this guy has rammed his foot up your ass so hard, I feel that some women feel like they have no other choice. So if your man is committing acts of violence and you're young, sometimes you feel pressure to follow suit just so he won't put his foot up your ass. And you see this a lot. Now, yes, if the person's of age, they do, and they have a responsibility that they have to hold themselves accountable. But I think we're taking out of consideration the fact that how heavily influenced young girls are. It's kind of like a carrot being dangled in a person's face. I want to keep the man. Man, she even talked about how jealous she used to get when other women would come into the light and other entertainers would try to work with him or whatever. She wants to be that main girl. But you hear this and I know women like this, where you really want that relationship to work. So whatever he's saying, whatever he's doing, you're co-signing his behavior. I mean, do you feel that charges should be brought up against her? Because in some aspects, she has been doing some of those things. She has been dealing with the drugs, giving the drugs out. She has been the go-to woman when he's not around. So you're saying that even though she was cutting up, don't put charges on her neither?
I don't necessarily think that she needs to be brought up on charges. What I'm saying is she's not a saint in the situation. That's all I'm saying. Like I think there's a difference. So even when Kid Cudi was speaking about it, you know what I mean? He was just like, yo, she had enough freedom to go date somebody else. You know what I mean? She couldn't have been that trapped if she was moving and moving like that. I mean, to some extent. And at the end of the day, he felt like they were both getting played by her. I mean, and there
Are
is.
we giving grace to women in that situation?
Ask that question again.
Are we giving grace to women in that situation?
No.
Ooh.
No. No.
Okay. Well, before I say anything, what Cash said?
No. So Cash said, I think the jury now is trying to decide was she held against her will or was she able to leave but didn't want to die
to that
lifestyle she would forfeit. Yeah.
Wow, we're not giving grace. Explain.
Right, because she had a choice between her freedom and her lifestyle.
But all women, no. All women in DV situations, unless you are physically being handcuffed to a chair or bed or whatever that looks like, have a choice to go back. All women do. They are all in situations where they're at the grocery store, the policeman's down the street, the big brother's around the corner, the daddy's over here. Every single woman has a choice and they go back. So we're not giving grace to none of them, you're saying? Or specifically her?
Most of them. No.
The only reason why I say this is because I think that what a lot of people forget is there is something mentally wrong with a woman who stays in an abusive relationship. And when you deal with mental illness, you do not treat it like it's a healthy, normal situation. So if we're to see somebody with Tourette's, if we're to see somebody with any type of, autistic, whatever that is, we automatically say, oh, we talk slowly, formulate your words this way. And we placate to that individual for the simple fact we know that they have a visible mental health issue. We're saying that a person that doesn't, like in a DV situation, fuck them.
Listen, I get it. I know what I'm saying is deeply controversial. I totally understand that, right? But I'm going to say this. Every woman's situation is not the same.
That is true.
Every woman's situation is not. So I don't want you to think that I'm painting this with a broad brush, and that every woman that's in a domestic violence situation should not be afforded grace or should not be, to some extent, right? But to some people, to some women, like anything else, and I mean, I don't know the exact statistics, but if you were asking me my opinion, I would say almost half of them, that literally is what they want, whether they thrive off of the toxicity, the drama, the attention. Some people really like that. Some people will get a black eye and run to social media to go show it off. Like, I mean,
you don't think that's a mental health problem?
I mean, it might be a mental health problem, but it's one that they're participating in. Yes, it's a mental health problem, and that the mental health part of it is not voluntary, right? But the fact that you are in an abusive relationship and to some extent kind of enjoying it, not the abuse itself, but the attention that comes with it, right? Not the abuse, but the lifestyle that's attached to it. Not the abuse. You're making a decision. You like something about it.
So okay, let's talk about a woman who has kids in the situation.
That's a different thing.
She comes back into the relationship because she knows that the little boy, the little girl's daddy, knowing that this relationship is a terrible relationship.
Right.
Are we having grace for that person?
Yes.
Interesting.
And yes and no, right? Because here's the thing. If it's a thing where you've been married for X amount of years, you had the baby before the abuse started, which happens, right? Sometimes things just get progressively worse over time. Things were wonderful until, he lost his job or until his mama died, like Kanye, or, until whatever, right? And then things change. I think that's a different situation. But if you're in an abusive relationship, you're willingly staying in it. You don't want to leave. You're committed to it. You like the attention. You like the drama. You get high off of it. For some people, it's a turn on, whatever. And then you get pregnant. No.
Let me go to the next conversation.
Okay. Not so much. So let's see. Cash said, I think the law still provides for a level of accountability for someone in a DV situation. For example, a woman who's in a domestic violence situation and shoplifts or robs or kills someone. Right. So DV can be used as a defense for some things, but not all things. It does not give you blanket legal immunity.
I mean, I do understand that, but I think that you do have to have a level of understanding that if a person is willingly going back into a DV situation, even though they have plenty of opportunity to leave and go do their thing, there is something mentally wrong with them because nobody likes to get the actual physical violence to them. I ain't talking about someone who has the kink. I'm talking about somebody who's running away actively, like, oh yeah, I got knocked out, or oh, you see my black eye, help me. What when we seen the video with Cassie and Puffy, and he was in the elevator scene, it was in the hotel. She didn't look like, oh yeah, this is the time I'm having the time of my life. He's
it was hella wrong. I'm not. There's nothing in me that can excuse his behavior. Nothing.
And we're not talking about his behavior. We're talking about the woman that goes back. Something is mentally wrong with a woman if she goes back.
And did you say that about anything or anybody? Like anybody? Can't you like? So, for example, you have somebody that and we're not talking about like an alcoholic because I think that does again. These are two different
mental health too.
It is a mental health thing. So that's what I'm saying. There's levels to everything, right? So there's people that are alcoholics that just really can't control themselves. They wake up in the morning and they take a hit from the bottle like it's an IV, right? Can't get through the day without it.
Okay.
I'm not talking about that person. I'm talking about the person that goes out on Saturday night, drinks into oblivion, is throwing up in the toilet, right? Is sick. Right? They're sitting there hugging the toilet going, oh God, get me out of this and I'll never drink again. And then they don't drink again for a month or 2 or 3. And then it's homegirl's birthday and they go get fucked up again. And here they are leaving over the toilet. And it's just like, why does this keep happening to me? Because
that's called a functioning alcoholic.
I mean,
functioning alcoholics can run a company, they can multitask, they can do all types of things. But that's the thing. So just for the audience,
up as an alcoholic.
But just for the audience to know, when I worked in social services, you don't just get the job and you sign up and then you start helping people. They take you through training, hours after hours after hours, about how substance abuse and dependency is an actual mental health condition. It's unfortunate that in the Black community, they were just throwing us in jail, but white people get grace. And they're like, oh, put him in the rehab and do. But that's a different topic. That's more political. But all these things, when you hear about self-harm, even if a person who's cutting themselves, why are you cutting yourself? You like that shit? What's wrong with you? That is something that has to do with
every person that goes out and gets white girl wasted on a Friday night is an alcoholic.
If they harm themselves to oblivion, like you just stated, even if it's once a year. Once a year, this person binges so much they get alcohol poisoning. Not every day, but once a year.
I'm not saying alcohol poisoning. I'm talking about throwing up, wakes up with a hangover, hates life, never wants to do it again. And then once a year for their birthday, for example, they go get hammered or whatever. That person's an alcoholic?
No, I'm talking about somebody who, I guess like this, when you're drinking to the point where you do not know and you cannot function and someone's taking those keys away, you've had entirely too much. And that would be something that as a mental issue, yes. Now, granted, we're talking about
that gets their keys taken from them has a mental health issue. Every person that gets their keys taken from them.
No, I didn't say every person. I'm talking about that person who you said drinks to oblivion. That individual.
I mean, I think if the person is celebrating whatever it is.
Well, that's the thing, and that's the reason why I'm allowing grace is because if you sign up and say, I want to be a social worker. If you sign up and say, I want to be some type of guidance counselor of some sort, they are literally teaching you the steps of how the brain works because this stuff is mental. The synapses, the electrons, all these things. Some things are firing, some things are not. All that stuff has to do with your mental capability. Now, granted, some of us don't do those things. So we're looking at the next person. How many times we run around a drunk person, we're looking at them like they're crazy. Like, what the fuck is wrong with them?
Right. But I mean,
they don't
do this with I feel like every single person has something, right? So even the person in credit card debt, right? That is in credit card debt, that's complaining that they're in debt, and then to buy the next thing, charges it again, you know.
So, but you know, there's all different types of addiction, though, right?
There's all different types of addiction, but there's also
abuse.
What we're doing at this point, because every single person has a touch of this. Every single person will eat past when they're full.
No, but there's a difference between somebody indulging and then being a glutton. There's a difference. If you start harming yourself, and no matter what that vice is, if you start harming yourself, if you start harming others, then you are actually in a stage of abuse.
Said by thinking like that, we're removing personal accountability. We can't just give that to everybody.
Well, I'll say this.
Does something like this every single day.
I will say this. If a person is autistic or Tourette's and you physically see that, right? And they're walking up to people and hitting them, you automatically know to give them some type of grace because they can't control it.
Right.
I guess the reason why it's a little bit different because you could visually see that something's wrong with them compared to something that's a mental attribute. And I think because a lot of people don't know how mental health works, they get lost in the minutia. Depression, anxiety, all these different little things that are not a big deal stem off into your life. Maybe you're a sex addict. But no, maybe it sounds like Puff Daddy's a sex addict. The way he's just every second
it sounds like he has some severe form of mental health illness beyond just being a sex addict. That goes way beyond.
I think the accountability goes into play, Liz.
So wait, just keeping that stream of thought real quick, right? So how is it that he has a mental health problem? We can see that something is wrong with him. He's doing things that are just not normal, and we can't afford him any grace. If we're going with, well, mental health is an excuse that we should take for everybody.
Afford him grace. Now, here's the thing. Media cancel cultures all the time. That's their thing. Once it's on the thing, you can't get it out their head. Do you allow R. Kelly grace? Do you allow these different men grace? Yeah, you can have them grace. You can allow them grace and then remove them from the situation. We don't need you on the R&B charts anymore. Just
should they be in jail?
If they can't sit in a mental institution and get that because here's the thing, because you can have a mental health issue and break the law at the same time. You can do both. Right now, I'm an alcoholic and I'm splurging in the house. Well, you know what? I'm damaging myself, but I'm not hurting nobody else.
Right. So you're doing something to hurt yourself or somebody else as a result of your mental health issue. And therefore, we should afford you grace and you shouldn't be held accountable.
I think that you should be held accountable. And I think there's levels to the accountability game. I think there's levels to the grace game. Right. That's all I'm saying. I'm
with you. Just we're on opposite sides. So to me, I think that Cassie and other women that are in similar-ish situations might have a mental health issue and they've made bad choices and they should also be held accountable. We cannot just excuse every single thing away with mental health issues. I agree that they have mental health issues. I once heard somebody say something really ridiculous on TV that pedophiles can't help themselves because their sexual preference is child. The fuck is that? Right? And so,
but you can have this one thing.
Put them in jail.
If the law states you cannot, let's take the drinking and driving. You cannot drink and drive. It is against the law. If you cannot gain control of your vice and you're abusing the situation and you get caught drinking and driving, believe me, we will hold you accountable. And jail is the actual right place for you to be, where hopefully in jail you can get the mental health services that you need, and also you broke the law. Same as the pedophile person. If they're touching little kids and stuff, grab them off the street, put them in a confinement area, whatever that looks like, and give them the mental health that they need. I'm just saying that I think that a lot of people don't associate mental health with women in DV situations. I think that take a woman that gets raped. She's wearing a sexy outfit and she's going down the street. Now why is she wearing that outfit? Who really wears a fucking little tiny shorts and a little tank top at 3 a.m?
100% not the same thing. Okay. So all I'm saying is if a person with a mental health illness can be put in a situation to be abused by somebody, then we should also understand that the person doing the abusing has a mental health illness. And if we continue this cycle, then we don't need jails at all because we can just things away and afford everybody grace.
I mean, you can even take the same scenario as when you have a lot of the mass shootings and stuff. Yes, guns are out there. People have all types of things going on. Why do you have this big old machine gun? But at the end of the day, the person that's doing this mass shooting has a mental health issue. And mental health, for some reason in America, is not being addressed the way it should. It's like, oh no, what? He He came from what type of background? Oh, he don't got nothing wrong with him. Yes, the fuck he does. He has all types of things wrong with him.
Right. And so there's something wrong with him, and therefore he should be held accountable. So let's just use that example. So somebody goes and
So
commits
if
a
we're gonna hold somebody accountable, how are we holding Cassie accountable then? Because you keep saying hold him accountable. Because we already got because Puffy, you know, he's being held
he
accountable.
can go to hell. Right.
Yeah.
Yes, right.
Cassie.
That's why you asked me, can we afford her grace? No.
Oh.
About as much grace as the mass shooter or the, and I'm not saying that they're doing the same thing. I'm saying the same way that you can tell me, well, this mass shooter has been getting abused since he was a child, right? Somebody's been touching him and this, that, and third. I hate to hear that. I'm sorry to hear that. And like I think Cass said, two things can be true at the same time. That's the comment if you want to put it up, right? So I don't think it has to be one or the other.
Oh.
You know what? I'm sorry. I'm sad that you were touched and molested since you were a child and your whole life has been terrible. But I think you should go to jail if you're a mass murderer, right? Like, I mean, yes, you have a.
But you said not, so don't allow Cassie with grace. But do you think that they should hold her, in some type of contempt and put some charges on her?
But if she committed a crime of any type, then yeah, why not?
Because I think she signed something so she could just
testify in exchange for testimony and so on and so forth. But which goes to my point, right? If she signed immunity and she's got that, I mean, well, good for her. But in terms of me just feeling endlessly sorry for the girl as if she's not complicit at all, I can't. Okay. I'm sorry that she got her ass beat. I think that sucks. I think that any man that puts their hands on a woman, especially the way that he did, which was beyond egregious, is disgusting, right? I'm not saying that she signed up for that. What I am saying is she refused to give up the lifestyle.
Okay.
Didn't want to. That was a choice. So Denise said, if the rumors are true about how Kim Porter actually died and Al B. Shore's stroke, I see exactly why Cassie stayed for the length of time she did and even did the things attached to that relationship.
I mean, you know what? And to address that, I am a survivor of DV, and I will say this because a lot of people say, man, you stayed. And it was 2 different relationships. So it's like, man, you went from one to another. What the hell is this? I can say this. Unless you actually had the living God fear put into you at that time, you would know why the woman would have stayed. So right now, a lot of times when you hear men say, oh man, you're so weak. I can't believe you stayed. Oh, this doesn't make any sense. That's because ain't nobody beat your ass that good. Put the fear of God in your ass that good. Maybe you was held over a balcony. Maybe somebody had a gun to your head. Maybe they threatened the babies that you had. So in reference to Cassie, I think that in some of the situations that she was facing, especially you mentioning about the Kim Porter and the Al B. Shore, it seemed like everybody was getting pneumonia. Like he just had some powder and was blowing on people like,
oh my God.
And this wasn't the pneumonia that you could work with. This is the instant you die type stuff. So I don't know. Sometimes it can be that serious.
Cash said the law will consider mitigating factors to maybe reduce a sentence. Sure. Like if you premeditate murder for money or something, you could get the death penalty. But if you have a mental health issue, then life. Cash said, I fall exactly where Liz is at. Wouldn't change a word. And so again, I'm not trying to sound horrible. And for the record, you put it out there, I'll put it out there too. I too was in a situation that was very, very, very physical. And I know what it's like to have choices and to make the wrong choice. Because again, when you're young and you're dumb, you'll make the wrong choice. I'm not telling you that you can't be young and stupid and that you won't make any mistakes and you won't make the wrong choice. I made the wrong choice. And then I left and then I came back and the whole same cycle. I know what I'm speaking of, right? But I also know that at the time that I was making those choices, I had choices, right? I could stay or I could go, right? What would be a reason to stay? What would be a reason to come back, right? And everybody has their own reasons. At the time, I felt like, you know what? This has its bad days, but it's better than the alternative. Young, dumb, but
I got one for you. I remember getting my ass beat walking down Central Park. I seen some police officers, 2 of them just sitting outside their squad car. This is my chance. I am getting the fuck up out of here. At this time, I was 17 years old. I walked up to the officer crying, just got my ass beat, the whole 9, scratches and bruises. I said, officer, please help me. He said, if you don't get your black ass out of my face, I'm going to lock you up. And then The boyfriend proceeded to beat my ass, continuing walking down the street. So sometimes when you think you have an out, and that's your out, right? What police officer is not going to help a woman walking and crying and this and this? But when I went for the help, I still got rejected. So in my situation, I felt like every time I took a step, it
Mhm.
ended up being pushed
Got
back.
literally knocked back into a corner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, in that situation, I did take steps.
Hmm.
It wasn't as if I was just like, yeah, I love this life. Oh, no, 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 no. He is beating me bad. I need to get out. But every single time I would attempt to make that step, he's
Hmm.
beating the person up. Well, the person says, get out of here.
And so
Wait, what?
I don't paint everything with a broad brush, right? I'm not.
Mhm.
I don't think that everybody's situation is the same. I don't think that everybody has the same opportunity to leave. I don't think everybody has the same level of assistance, the same level of access, the same level of privilege. There's obviously a wide range of different things, right?
Mhm.
Some people are leaving. Um, Quite a few women that I personally know, right, have a situation where they were abused as children in their home, right, and
Mhm.
then found the fastest way out that they could. So you're talking about now a child running off to probably an older man that's going to try to take care of them and so on and so forth. Man starts knocking them around. They've never had a job or any place else to live. That's not their fault. The choice is stay with the man or go back home to the stepfather or whoever that was abusing them. You
Yeah,
know what
yeah,
I mean?
yeah.
So that's an impossible situation to be in. That's literally a rock and a hard place. That's a different situation, and for that I have endless sympathy. And the stories that I can think of, usually what ended up happening is she killed either the husband or the stepfather. You know what I mean? But one of the abusers was going to get it, right? That is somebody that will escape by any means necessary. And that's an instance where you broke a law, right? You killed somebody, and now what do? I have a world of sympathy for that person, and I do think that there are exceptions to every rule. I think that that's to some extent self defense and so on. That's not what I'm talking about. That's
Mhm.
somebody that gets endless grace from me. You understand what I'm saying? But
Mhm.
somebody that's saying, I mean, what's a broken nose if I can drive a Ferrari?
Gotcha.
Enjoy that shit, right? I cannot. It's not fair to the people that are genuinely in a bad situation that
Well,
have
I would
no.
say if you have a woman that makes that type of statement, definitely self love is in there, and she doesn't see. And would you agree? Self love is definitely not. She doesn't love herself enough, you know. Just to kind of move the topic just a little bit, do you
Mhm.
think, based on what's going on, they have enough evidence for RICO charges? Because as you guys know already, Puff Daddy is not in this trial because he beat on women.
Right.
He
So they
is
do
in the
have
trial
evidence
for a
for
RICO.
Rico, but he's the only one that's being tried. Rico is kind of a group activity, so I'm a little confused about that. From what I understand of a legal point of view, I don't get that. I thought Rico was like uh,
Yeah, I think that at this very moment, if the jurors were to, go ahead and deliver, their answer, I think
mhm,
he'd be not guilty. I really do. And
mhm.
that's because as of right now, they have not produced enough information showing that he had this enterprise of networking schemes and this and this. Having machine guns, uh, having drugs and these things.
Baby oil.
Yeah, baby oil,
Yeah.
women, men,
Mhm.
all that stuff, men's milk, or however he was doing. None of these things have to do with mafioso mentality.
Mhm.
That's just him being a freak and painting him as a bad picture. Now, granted, I think the prosecution's doing a good thing to paint him as a bad guy. So maybe down the line they come in with the whammy, like, aha, now that you think he's an evil guy, let me show you what he was doing. But as
Okay.
of right now, I don't see that at all. I know they asked Donald Trump, would they pardon uh, Puffy? And he basically was like, well, I heard about the trial, haven't been following the trial. Me and him been friends for a minute. He said
Hmm.
that once he joined politics, Puffy kind of went, they kind of went silent. He said, I heard some things, but I really don't know, but we'll see. And it's interesting that he said that because it wasn't a no. See, Donald Trump is all about what's in it for him and how did he get his rocks off. So it would be very interesting if Puffy was found guilty and Donald Trump waved the magic wand because he just pardoned young boy NBA, the rapper.
Hmm. He's in, he's been
NBA
pardoning,
Youngboy, NBA Youngboy, excuse me.
he's been pardoning quite a few people. He pardoned somebody else that mom gave him $1 million, contribution.
Yes,
He just
yes,
pardoned
he's
the
been
next
parting
day.
a lot of people, but
You got the other person that the daughter's cute, and so they got a pardon. And this whole pardon thing it's kind of yeah. Mm.
you know what I find interesting about the whole pardon thing, and it's not okay who contributed to his campaign, and so now I'm waving the magic wand. The last couple, and I hate the fact I don't know the name. The last couple that he just pardoned, the woman and the man,
Yeah,
they did a press conference, and the press conference, the guy was basically like, "Yo, now that I'm free, I want to bring light to the injustice that African American men
right.
go through in the criminal justice, system." He said, "I had so many privileges that my counterparts did not." And as much as I think that he should have been locked up, because if you evade your tax,
I was trying to find the name of the couple.
yeah. If you evade your tax, you evade your tax. But at the same time, it's like I'm glad he mentioned that, because a lot of people with a platform do not mention uh, the 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 injustice that African American men receive in that institution. So I was happy about that. Um,
Hmm, I think
the-
that's just reality. Judy and Todd Chrisley, that's the names.
okay, okay.
But they're like reality show people and so on and
Mhm.
so forth. And I think that's just a reality show person looking for his next show. Do I really, really, really believe him wholeheartedly? Well, let's see what he does.
So you don't think he was serious about the
These
I
are
mean,
people.
it's a true statement about how Black people go through it.
I mean, yeah, I believe him. I believe that they do, and I think that this is just his next grift.
Okay, okay. So
So that's, you know,
since we kind of got off of Puffy, now we're talking about your president.
no, don't put that on me, the girl.
Since we over here talk about well, whoever
No,
voted
no,
for him,
hold on.
or whoever didn't vote for him, because I know there were some people who didn't vote for him. So that's
Mhm.
still your president. How are we feeling about his presidency so far? I mean, we don't hear about Doge anymore. Elon Musk is falling back. He's kind of going to go back to his businesses, so he won't be taking over as much. I know the last time he was in the Oval Office, he had a black eye. I guess his son punched him in the eye. But there have been talks about his drug problems that he has.
One of his baby mamas or whatever.
Yeah. So are we happy? But are we happy that Elon is gone, or what are we thinking?
Yes, happy he's gone. Interesting that, like I said, he's falling out with them. He's on the outs at this point with the administration. And so, based on this last big, beautiful bill that they were passing, Elon is just like, yo, WTF? We just tried to cut spending, and here you are blowing the deficit up again,
Yeah.
And so, he's actually speaking out about it and he's upset about it. And I think it's hilarious. I mean, again, it sucks because the boat that I'm on has a hole in it, but sometimes the hole is funny.
You know what's interesting that's sad about this bill, just in case you guys are not following, I know all of us are not glued to the TV. We're trying to get away from all the news and the same bullshit all the time. But they're cutting Job Corps out, and I find that so sad.
Yep.
There's no more funding for Job Corps, and for those of you who don't know about Job Corps, it
Mhm.
was for a lot of underprivileged individuals who maybe they had it rough in school, high school. Maybe they can't, maybe they had to get away from
Mhm.
individuals and neighborhoods. So Job Corps was a program that was funded by the government to give trade schools and different things for these individuals, these young kids. And I think this last class that just graduated, I'm going to say a couple of days ago, will be the last class because Job Corps is closing its doors, which I said, wow, I think this is a fucking setup. Because if you have at-risk youth
Mhm.
just wild and free in the
Yep. And
summertime
no
with nothing
Yep.
productive to do,
Mhm.
and they're out in the summer having big fun, police have immunity, what is going to happen to these young individuals? Who's going to fill up the jails? Who's going to do this free labor that they've been plotting for such a long time?
Mhm.
These people smell the tea leaves. If you
Mm.
know young kids that are just kind of just out there, put them in some type of activity get a community something going on, because we cannot afford to lose any more young kids to what this administration has planned for them.
Right.
Let's,
There's a lot of issues, and so Z said Elon could only stay as a confirmed advisor for 130 days. Yeah, technically they can hide behind that, but since when has this administration followed any rules?
I did
Elon
not know
was just
that.
kind of as a buddy. He was, co-president. No one elected him at all. So
I
yeah,
did not know that about 130 days because he wasn't confirmed. Did
right.
not know that. Okay.
So,
Okay.
and then Toya also joined the chat. So welcome to the chat, Z and
Hey,
Toya.
hey, hey, hey.
So yes.
No, I really think it's really sad though what's happening. Summertime is when a lot of the young kids go outside.
Hmm.
Summertime is when a lot of things happen, and I could smell it rumbling.
Hmm.
Crime is oh.
Cash said, not Job Corps. They're crossing the line.
Yes, yes,
He
Job
figured
Corps.
out how to get cash on the streets. He's gonna
No,
have his
no,
time
no.
up.
All jokes aside, Job Corps put a lot of money, a lot of opportunities in the young youth, for people
They did.
getting their GEDs, for people who needed a hot meal on a cot,
Hmm.
um, all types of things. And it's really, really sad to see. And I know they changed the age of dependency for SNAP beneficiaries. So it used to be 17 for your dependents. Now they put it to age 7. So if you are a child, if you are an adult who has a child, and they are under the age of 17, it used to be a thing of where you didn't have to work for your food stamps. Only when that 17 limit, came approaching. But now, since they changed it, they will have the mothers and the fathers working now because the age of dependency is 7. How the hell are you looking at a dependent child? Like, what? How are they independent at the age of 7? But they'll slide any of
It's
these
not
things.
that they're independent, and I don't agree with it. I'm just trying to figure out how to explain
Okay.
it. Right? I do not agree with that. Don't agree with it. Let me go on the record.
Okay.
However, the theory behind it is, if you have a woman that just had a baby, like
Okay.
3 months ago,
This is
and
baby.
you're like, well, in order to get food stamps, you have to work. She's just like, what do I do with my 3-month-old baby? You know what I mean? And so who's going to take care of them? Childcare costs more than minimum wage does. I have to be home.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you don't really have the same excuse when the kid is 12. It's, who's going to take care of my 12-year-old? I mean, what?
They lowered the age to 7. Now tell me again what's going on.
So again, I'm not telling you I agree.
Oh, no, I like the analogy that you was giving. The analogy that
I
you
not
was
say that you agree. However, legally for women that do work, and I don't agree with this either, just so you know, but in the state of Florida, I don't know what the national minimum is, right? But if you leave a child at home by themselves unsupervised, right? So mommy's going to work, right? There's food in the microwave. I'll be back in a couple of hours. The lowest age that a child can be, I want to say, is 7. So that's not an arbitrary number. That is a number that has existed for the longest, right? A child can be home by themselves at 7 as long as there's a working phone and food in the
we
refrigerator.
base it off of the maturity of the child is the maturity of the child.
And it is the maturity of it, right? Because if you have an 8-year-old that's a functioning 2-year-old, then that's a different thing, right? So, but for general purposes, a child in Florida that's 10 years old can in fact be home by themselves.
Want to hear it?
I am not telling you that I agree because I do not agree. For the record, I don't agree, right? But for working women, you can leave your child at home by themselves if they have a working phone and food in the refrigerator for up to, I think it's like 12 hours or something like that before, child welfare can get involved. I'm shaking
I
my
know,
head.
I
I
know.
don't agree. I'm just saying
It's
it's
a
not an arbitrary number. So what they're saying is for women that are not working, the excuse that I can't work because I have a kid at home is a little bit unfair to the women that are working and their children are at home, right? And 17 is a bit absurd. A 16-year-old that can't warm a plate of food is kind of silly. Now, I don't know what the age should be. I haven't really given it any thought. I've actually worked for most of my kids' lives. And again, I don't think that that's everybody's case. I think that it does suck. I think it sucks to think that a 10-year-old girl should be at home by themselves. What could possibly go wrong? You know what I mean? But just for argument's sake, 7 is not an arbitrary number. And 17 is a little ridiculous. You cannot say that you're not working because your 17-year-old needs you. Bullshit.
Well, you know what's interesting? I know plenty of 17-year-old girls who got in all types of trouble because mama was
17 year
not
old
home.
job too.
Huh?
Yeah,
Well,
but
yeah, they needed a job too, but
you got two people that need a job in that situation.
unfortunately, they got into a whole world of trouble because they was home alone. So, yeah.
Kat said my 8-year-old would curse me out if I told her I was leaving her home alone for hours.
She definitely would.
My 13-year-old would have a problem.
No,
To
I
be
mean,
fair.
at the end of the day, guys, I really think that, sometimes when other situations are going on, it kind of clears the way for people not to look at what's happening in administration, right? A lot of tornadoes were happening in the Midwest, and for the people
Well, we're
who lost
getting rid of the
lives and
National
stuff,
Weather Service.
Yeah, so when you have a lot of things happening all at once, it becomes overwhelming.
Yep.
And then you don't even want to deal with it. You're like, you know what? I am turning off the news. And I'm going to promise you guys, Liz and I are news junkies. We're news whores. We love the news.
Absolutely.
And you know what? We had to turn it off. And we're just like, we're overwhelmed. I'm so over this bullshit.
Mhm.
It's always something. There's nothing positive. And I understand for people who just don't watch the news to begin with, like, that's why I don't watch it. But I feel like it's better to know than to not know. And for people who do tune in, it's so funny because I'll be talking to somebody and they're like, "Did you hear?" And I'm like, "Well, if you listen to the podcast, I had said it." But with that being said, I just want you guys to realize that just because things are not being talked about, don't mean it's not happening. And there's definitely a storm coming. This summer is going to be a eye fucking opener. The fact that we have so many empty jails, the fact that police now have immunity, it's a storm waiting to brew. It's a storm literally waiting to brew.
Alcatraz, is that what I heard you say? Alcatraz.
Well, and out, yeah, he's
All right, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to stress you. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't want to stress
with that being said, because I know we're almost at time, I want to let you guys know that one thing that the administration has done, they have shut off our news line when it comes to the World Health Organization. They
you.
have minimized the news when it comes to the CDC and what they have to say. So you have to actually type in like, "Hey, what is it we should be staying away from?" And I want to let you know that there's a spike in COVID, a new strand, and a lot of people have been catching it that I actually personally know. With that being said, they also stated that the number of people who gotten the vaccination, the jab is what people call it, has also went down. I'm not here to advocate for someone else's health. You do what you feel is personally best for your own health, but you have to be aware that they're not letting you know what's out there because they got so many other smoke screens going on and so many other things happening. You're not knowing that, wait a second, you said there's a new strain. You said NB1 what? and it's doing who to who. And it's crazy because people are outside now. People are outside, they're enjoying the summer, and they're like, hey, we're about to get out in these streets. And guess what? The more contact you have, the more you have those chances to get sick. So I want to make sure that you guys just be aware of what's happening currently and be safe, because at the end of the day, if you don't got your health, you don't have anything. And that's exactly what this administration wants to do, because now you're going to fall right into the into their hands of what they want.
On everything, right? So I unfortunately agree with you. This is morbid. This is a dark way to. It's Sunday night. So, hey guys. All right. So, last words with Liz, right? Oh my gosh, I don't even know where to start anymore. I will say this: in the last, just 1 week ago, I actually celebrated a birthday. All right. So, Gemini season in full effect.
A queen is born, y'all, in 16 more days. A queen is born. Gemini.
Only mention that because my gift to myself was to what did Kendrick Lamar say? Turn the TV off. So that's exactly what I did, and I have been, I catch bits and pieces because I can't help myself. That might be my addiction, but I catch bits and pieces. But I have not been completely locked in and tuned in. I do owe it to myself to stay informed, and so I will tune back in. But that was just my my 1 week reprieve. That was I couldn't get on a plane right now because it's busy season at work. So I took a vacation from the TV and from the news. And so I'll be back. I'll be completely current, I promise. But things that I don't want that, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention. I mentioned my birthday. Unfortunately, it coincides with the death day of George Floyd. And I just think some things need to be mentioned, right? And so, if nothing else, just remember how you felt that day. Remember why you felt that way. Remember the ensuing months and everything that came with it. Remember who was in charge at the time, and remember that the reason that it was so front of mind for everybody is because we were all living through COVID, and that was our reality and everything else, right? The same MF is in charge now, up to the same antics and that much worse, right? Because now they're unhinged. Now the gatekeepers that were trying to keep them at least somewhat compliant with the Constitution and whatnot, they've gotten rid of all of those people. Now we only have the radicals kind of running the show. So, be wise and be advised, right? And so, Kia, we haven't done a prepping show in a minute. I think we're due. So when they get rid of the CDC and they get rid of the World Health Organization, and they're putting a lot of money into jails, and they're figuring out more ways to make to incriminate you, even things like defaulting on your student loans, which they made instantly they're charging people right now that haven't paid student loans in a long time. Those are federal loans. It can become a federal offense. And so if you don't know, you make yourself subject to things that you innocently didn't mean to be a part of, right? And so I know we talked about domestic violence. I'm just kind of everything in with these last words, right? I know we talked about domestic violence, and I know it came across as if I'm a little cold and I don't have the sympathy and so on and so forth. That's not it. On the screen right this moment, you do have two women that figured it out at some point and walked away. Yeah, we were young and dumb. We put up with shit that we probably shouldn't have. But eventually we did figure it out. And we had a choice between staying. Those people are still around, right? We could have stayed or we could have moved on. And we made that choice. Other young women that are in the situation, you do have a choice. And every day that you stay, you are making a choice, right? So I'm asking you, I'm pleading with you, choose yourself. All right. That's what I'm asking. I'm not telling you that it's going to be easy. I'm not telling you that it's all going to be roses and rainbows the day that you walk away, but I am telling you that you do have a better choice. And I'm here to be a witness that it does get better. Maybe not tomorrow, but I'll holler at you in a couple months, right? If you need help, please don't hesitate to reach out for help. There are hotlines, there are friends, real friends that will help you. There are family members that are willing to open their doors for you and everything else. Do not turn your back on your options, right? Because it is a choice, all right? Mental health is real, and there are therapists for that. That man that's beating your ass is not the therapist that's going to help you. So I wanted to put that out there. It's not that you don't have any grace from me. Some people do, some people don't. That's just a reality, right? And I do hope that you guys like and subscribe. I know we get a little controversial, but stick with us.
Yeah, and just to add that, I don't have the number up, but 211 is a national resource number that you can call. First off, call 911 if you're in a situation, but let's just say you're just having questions, you know somebody, you don't know how to address it, whatever that is. 211 is a national hotline where you can get linked up to all those resources and services, because at the end of the day, this is something that is not talked about as much,
Right.
DV is a real thing. It affects us personally. Maybe you know someone or whatever the case may be. And like Liz says, we have choices, and the choice is you. You come first.
Mm-hmm.
The other person can kick rocks, and there's a special place in hell for them. But at the end of the day,
you know what? Actually, take that back. Maybe they need help too, but they're not getting the help that they need. If you love them, get them the help that they need, and beating your ass does not help them.
And separate, because believe me, you don't want to get the help together. That's not
going to work either. That's not it.
No.
That's definitely not it.
No, definitely.
Love you guys. Have a beautiful week, and we will.
Yes. Next time, guys.